So I actually came to the table as an opera coach, pianist, conductor, and realized I just didn't love performing. Go figure. Um, so I also had a similar career where it looked really fancy on paper. I was going to Europe, I was going all around the country, and actually didn't do the day job thing until I just really wanted to zoom out. I was living in New York and I saw the ones that were really successful, the top of the business pianist coaches in New York, and they were scrambling around like a chicken with their head cut off, and well into their 50s and 60s. And so I was 23, 24 at the time and said, I don't know that I love it that much to be able to sacrifice my entire life just, for these things. And I don't even want to diminish what those things are. To some people, that is exactly the most important. And to me, it just wasn't. I just wanted authentic relationships and I wanted, a really a life rooted in things that I could stand behind.
It's fabulous
Passion.
to meet you, Spencer. Everything you said was about your reasoning for kind of stepping down from this career resonated so much with me. I kind of did the exact same thing when I went to the Tel Aviv Opera House. I would have dinner with all of these amazing sopranos, and I just did not love their lives. I did not want those lives. It's like something deep within my gut knew that I was in it for the adventure. I
Mhm.
don't love it enough for that.
Mhm.
Um, and so that it was a real turning point for me. When I came back, I started taking voice lessons from one of the most well-known Wagnerian singers in the US. And I honestly just I didn't love her life either. It seemed lonely, especially on the other side of it where, she wasn't singing as much anymore and she was looking for teaching jobs and things like that. And I was like, if someone like you is still, kind of racing around looking for the next thing and the next validation point, I just knew that I couldn't live my life that way, that I'd be missing something. It started feeling more like that this thing that I loved was getting in the way of my life rather than
Mhm.
the thing that
Mhm.
was my life or that I thought was going to be my life was going to lead me there.
Sure.
And for me, one of the big turning points was when I looked at it less as turning away from or selling out from
Hmm.
the thing and turning more towards my own authentic values and goals in life,
Yeah,
I think
I
everybody
couldn't
on
agree
this call
more.
could probably really resonate with that. It's just, this was actually me running towards something, which maybe at the time felt like running away, but there was still some higher calling. After working this hard and getting all the degrees and doing all the things, you're not just going to ditch it, like
Yeah,
a stray dog.
Mm.
That there really has to be that higher calling to what you want in your life. And you could couch it as more or better or whatever. And in point of fact, it's just different. It's just, you can't even compare it.
yeah. And I have friends that are still opera singers that are living the life that I knew I couldn't live and loving it. But I knew it wasn't for me. It was not my authentic self at all. Too much of a control freak. I really like knowing.
That.
I felt like the world was full of possibility when I got out of opera because I could do anything. I could do marketing. There's so many cool jobs out there. I could write. I could do whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
But I was limited to coloratura soprano and whatever that meant for whatever house I could have gotten into when I
Right.
was an opera singer. So it was very limited. Even though you feel like you're in this beautiful artistic world, you're actually limited to whatever subjective personality is in front of you that either likes you or doesn't like you.
Yeah, I also years ago I was applying for some muggle job, I don't remember what, and I was introduced to the concept of like the push-pull theory of when you change a job or change a career, which is that there's always something that's simultaneously pushing you and pulling you. And for me, it was sort of I got tired of being poor.
Yeah,
I was
me
for
too.
a time, for a time I was, I mean, I was probably for at least a couple of years, I was one of the top 10 or 12 people in the US doing my repertoire. And I was still coming home and then driving for Uber and stuff like that, like in between. And no disrespect, right? We all do what we got to do and there's honor in all work, but it wasn't satisfying for me, right? So there was that sort of like, to quote another singer friend of mine who changed careers years ago, I'm too smart to be this poor. So that always resonated with me. But the pull part of it too was when I was a kid, I dreamed of being like a scientist. I dreamed of being an engineer or an architect or an inventor or something like that. But I struggled with math. And so I was sort of like, I steered or was steered away from sort of those quantitative disciplines. And one of the things that I like really caught my eye when I started looking into roles in tech was the possibility of, in the abstract, being able to work alongside software engineers, let's say, who are building the thing, even if it's this intangible thing that's zeros and ones. But then depending on which industry I was in, to actually work much more closely along with actual like hard engineers and hard science as well. I found that a lot in working in energy as well. And that's something that like I never would have gotten from opera. So I was sort of, I reached a point where I was like, there's gotta be something more for me. And Michelle, just like you, like I went from being like, okay, if I can get 6 opera companies in the US to like me enough to hire me, you know, on a rolling basis, maybe I'm gonna be okay, to like, oh, suddenly like I'm in a field with 10,000 companies and 100,000 jobs, right? And I mean, we can talk about what the tech job market is like right now later, which is it's its own conversation, right?
Yeah.
And yet, you know, to go from, I don't know, what, 150 companies in the US, if that, to many tens of thousands of opportunities from startups all the way on up to giant enterprise, it changes your world. It's transformative.
Absolutely, I would agree. I think, Michelle, something you said that really resonated with me is the idea of looking at what success might have looked like for other people, or even looking at what success I thought looked like for me, and actually taking the time to ask myself if that was what I wanted. And it's a scary thing to actually be in a point where you ask yourself that, is this what I thought that I was supposed to do? Is this what I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of government student loan money trying to accomplish? Is it actually what is going to make me feel good? This adrenaline high, this performance high that I was constantly chasing, was that enough to sustain the lows? Because for me, it was always, the highs were really great, and when things were going really well, it was super exciting. But the other side of the coin, which I think probably all of us have experienced, was for me mentally not a healthy space to continuously be in. And I kind of fell into Dover on accident, and it's ended up being one of the better things that I've been able to do for myself. And it's scary to kind of take a step back and be like, I'm not doing what I thought I was going to do forever. But
Well,
also,
particularly because of the like level of intensity and ferocity that you like everybody on this call pursued it with, you know.